Hello, everyone. Greetings of the day to wherever you're watching from. I am Afsha Dadan.
I am Priyamni Devnan, and we are the co founders of Whiteside. We are establishing a very different kind of fintech intelligence unit, which aims to help you in identifying the emerging white spaces amid the creative destruction.
So, we'll be taking up the next 20 to 30 minutes and giving you a deep dive into the strategies of the most talked neobanks in the UK. Now, before we go into the deep end, I'd like to give you a brief background of where it all started. Like everything in fintech, it started out from the global financial crisis in 2008. During that time, there was a lot of uncertainty and trust with the traditional financial institutions, and that is where this change was brought about. In 2010, Metro Bank was a newly established commercial bank which secured a banking license in almost 100 years. Moving on, in 2012, the Financial Services Act came into picture, which came into force in 2013. Under this act, three new financial regulatory bodies were established, and these would be the gatekeepers of the new banking era in UK. From 2014 onwards, there was a licensing boom where many new and coming up and coming banks got their banking licenses. In 2015, the European Union adopted the Payment Services Directive 2, which introduced the term open banking. And in 2016, the UK Competition Markets Authority put down an even stricter mandatory approach for open banking by making it mandatory for the top nine banks of the UK to share the customers' transaction data with other financial institutions so that they could build more products on top of it. The new bank startup unit was launched by the regulators as a means to bridge the gap between fintechs who are looking to establish banks and the regulators in the licensing process. Now, this was the entire setup for the term which emerged called the challenger banks. These new breed of banks were known as challengers to the incumbent banks which existed from a long time. While this was all happening, the protagonists of our story, that is Revolut, Starling, and Monzo, were slowly setting up their operations from 2013 onwards. In 2016, Revolut secured its e-money license in the UK, and in 2017, Monzo and Starling both got their banking license from the regulators. But what's so new about these banks?
Okay, so the term neo is very a close term which comes under the challenger bank. Neo bank is basically classified as a digital bank, meaning it is fully digital through internet or mobile app, which is also a contrast to the old big traditional banks who have their physical presence in terms of branches in the countries where they are established in. So, looking so further, we have seen that the digital banking has been adopted by the UK most prominently, and it is also known as the early adopter. So, moving ahead, we will have a look like which are the top three UK challenger banks. So, starting from the left hand side, it starts with Monzo. So, Monzo was founded in 2015, and it has launched its prepaid card in November 2015. And also with a name called Mondo before changing its name to Monzo. So currently, as per 2020 reports, it has a 4.5 million retail customers and 36,000 business customers. The next is the Starling Bank, which was founded in 2014 but was launched officially in 2017. The difference between the founding year and launching year was the wait for obtaining the banking license from PRA and FCA, which has delayed their official launch in 2017. Also in March 2017, Starling has started its beta in partnership with TransferWise and came live in May 2017. Currently, as per the reports of 2020, Starling has a 1.3 million retail customers and 200,000 business customers. The next is the Revolut. Revolut was founded in 2013 but was officially launched in 2015. Revolut is a very hyped fintech as compared to the other challengers and neobanks. So it was basically set up to help the travelers to avoid the expensive foreign exchange fees by providing them a very simple mobile app and card where the users can exchange and change their money in about 30 different currencies, and that also in the market rates. As per the 2020 reports, the retail customers stands to 13 million, and they have a 500,000 business customers. So moving ahead, we have the executive team. If we have a look in the top table, we have an interesting check that the average experiences of the team members, which is led by Starling Bank. So Starling Bank team members has an average of 22 years, which is followed by Monzo 19 years and Revolut 18 years. There's also one more interesting thing if we look is the female representation on the executive teams. So Starling Bank is leading to it with a 50%, followed by Monzo and Revolut. All these three banks are been led by the industry veteran, the CEO of Monzo, T.S. Anil, who was recently appointed in May 2020, whereas the CEO of Starling and Revolut and Nicolay, respectively, has been the CEO since the inception of the company.
Now we look at the go-to-market strategy of these banks. So there are three main components to this: the product, the customer, and the channel. So we have a contrasting view over here, whereby on the left you can see the go-to-market strategy at launch compared to at present, where they are right now. So at launch, all three banks had a basic offering of some sort of an account and a deposit taking account and a card, whereby and which was aimed at individual customers, obviously focused in the UK since that was their place of establishment. The channels used by these banks varied across having their own banking license and partnering. While Starling took its time getting its banking license before launch, Monzo and Revolut both were pretty quick to launch in partnership with a license provider. Comparing it to where they are at the present, they have a diverse portfolio of products. They are catering to individuals as well as to small businesses, and they've also expanded geographically, where Revolut has gone across 4 continents and 35 countries, and Monzo has taken a one-way ticket straight to the States, while Starling Bank is still focusing in the UK because it sees a lot of potential still left in the market. Where when you compare the channels that these banks are currently using, they all the three have their own banking licenses. Monzo and Starling have a UK license, whereas Revolut has a European banking license. Revolut also has multiple payment licenses across the globe, and it also partners with various providers to provide its services in different geographies. Next, we look at the product portfolio of these banks. On the left, we have the retail products and business products on the right. In terms of the retail products, Monzo and Starling, since they have their own license, banking license, they were able to provide current accounts, whereas Revolut is still hasn't rolled out its current account features in the UK. It is starting so slowly through its European banking license by launching these products in Lithuania. But it makes up for that by providing investment products which neither Monzo or Starling do. Revolut provides stock trading, it provides cryptocurrencies as well as investing in gold. And now the real competition has moved on to business banking, because SMEs are where the real potential lies to gain revenue as well as more customers. The banks are battling it out on the business front. Monzo is, however, new to the playing field. It started out its business banking services recently in 2020, whereas Starling launched it just 1 year after its initial launch, and Revolut also launched it in 2018. Both Starling and Monzo provide various services, also a third-party marketplace for business users. Starling has also gone a step ahead, and it monetizes its technological capabilities to provide banking as a service for B2B clients. Now we take a closer look at what actually sets these neobanks apart.
Yeah. So moving ahead, we'll start with Monzo, the product stack of Monzo. So as we all know that Monzo started with a prepaid account and card where the users has to load funds before getting a transition to a full bank account. They move ahead, and in 2017 they introduced current account as soon as they obtained the banking license. From 2018 to 2019, they have seen a 94% adoption from the existing customers in their current account. Moving ahead to 2019, they had expanded their services to USA market with the same approach of a prepaid account and a card, and also they were offering saving pots. So in 2020, they have also more of the different diversified products. So Monzo has purely focused to consumer banking. The vibrant community of Monzo makes the bank more transparent. They uses a three-way to engage with the customers. The first is the online forum where they actively enable the customers to give inputs, ideas, and take feedback for the product development. They also organizes different events as such as workshops, seminars, product launches, and many others. They are also very active in social media. So let's have a look to the Starling Bank, and over to you, Afsha.
So one peculiar thing about Starling Bank, as I mentioned, is they have monetized their technological capabilities. So the time they took building their own banking services was what they are now providing to other fintechs and financial institutions to build their products on. So Starling Bank acts as the base license provider, whereby other entities who don't have a license yet can use the platform to provide financial services to their end consumers. They provide a range of three offerings which customers can pick and choose as per their needs. And they have a 24 clients live as of now, which is pretty impressive. Building on this, the bank has built a sustainable revenue stream from these services, where you can see on the left, the chart shows that from 2018 to 2019, it witnessed a 7x growth in income from fees rising out of the banking as a service fees. So next thing we have a look is at the marketplace offering by Starling Bank. Now the marketplace offering is one whereby third-party providers can provide their services to the Starling Bank customers through the Starling Bank app itself. So the customers don't have to download a different app, and both Starling as well as the partner provider get the benefit of growing their user base as well as commission income. So they started out in 2017 with retail marketplace integrations, and their recent integrations have been focused more towards business side of things, and it has proved fruitful because almost 33% of their business banking customers are actively using a marketplace integration, which is a really great metric. Now, Priyamani will talk about Revolut.
Yeah. So, looking to the Revolut, Revolut has come a very long way in short time. If we look to the 5 years time from where it has initially launched from 2015 to 2020, they have significantly expanded their portfolio of product, and also along with the geographies. So they have actually started with the geographies and the licenses which they have obtained in different countries. So if we look to the 2015, they have started their services in UK and European Economic Area, wherein by in 2016 they obtained a license of e-money institution and appointed representative in UK. In 2018, they have expanded their services to Russia, and they also obtained payment licenses in Singapore, Lithuania, and Japan. They have also obtained a very specialized banking license in Lithuania in 2018, which actually starting to be used from 2020. In the year 2020, we can see that they have very diversified, built up in different geographies which they are serving. They have built their user base in more than 35 plus countries. They also obtained a payment license in Australia. And I guess last week, which we have a news that Revolut has publicly started their services in Japan, and they are also looking forward in the same basis in Australia.
Now,
So,
to have a look at what grounds do these neobanks actually compete on? We have a look at the customer acquisition trends of these three banks, and it's pretty evident that Revolut takes a big center stage in that terms. It has grown leaps and bounds due to its rapid geographical expansion strategy. And it on the left, you can see a table which shows the customer milestones, which Revolut has been the fastest to achieve, followed by Starling and Monzo. Next, we look at the marketing strategies of these banks.
Yeah. So, according with the customer acquisition, marketing goes side by side. If we say that competing with the UK big four banks is not that easy, it actually needs a creative mind and track to move forward and have a different initiative or different path to acquire customers. So, looking at the top table, which we have about the social media followers, it is very surprising to see that LinkedIn has the most user base as compared to Instagram and Facebook. And also, Monzo is actively using their YouTube channel, which has a 28 million views for their marketing and branding. Moving forward to the popular market initiatives, which these three banks have adopted, is that Monzo have started with an TV ad campaign and also a very popular initiative, which was known as hashtag Here in Monzo, which was a roundup feature where it shows like what were the spending of a user throughout the year. The similar thing was used by Starling Bank. They have recently launched a TV ad campaign in February 2020 to celebrate the business owners, which was popularly known as Helping Business Fly. So this was launched aiming to grow their business, banking business customer base. Revolut, on the other hand, has took a very different route. They didn't went for any TV ad campaign. Instead, they recruited and signed different social media influencers like the YouTube bloggers, Instagram bloggers to post and promote their new digital banking app in different social media platforms. So, if we look for the further, we have the charts of funding and valuation. So, if we move from the top, we can see we can actually make an analysis and say that Revolut is the most funded and most valued neobank. The total funding, including the 2020 funding, Revolut stands at $918 million, whereas its valuation stands to $5.5 billion. Talking about the funding trends, we can see that how it has all the three banks have been growing year on year. So there is a catch in the funding for Starling Bank. So if it was very amazing to know that Starling Bank is a proud and happy recipient of BCI. So BCI is basically the Banking Competition Remedies, who provides the CIF grants aiming to enhance the SME market in UK. So, Starling Bank has received $130 million as a CIF grant in February 2019, and they are aiming to seek additional $5 million to continue with the SME momentum. On the other hand, Revolut and Monzo in the year 2016 and 2017 has crowdfunding, which also gives an insights that they enable their customers to be a part of their company. Moving ahead, we have this valuation trend in the top. The graph tells us how Revolut has been so quick to become an unicorn only in 2.75 years, which was followed by Monzo, the 3.3 years. So the recent funding, which was in 2020, Revolut has witnessed a 3x jump in the valuation, which totaled to their $5.5 billion, whereas Monzo have seen a downfall from $2.5 billion to $1.6 billion. Again, Monzo has this downfall because they had a very disbalance during the COVID pandemic, and they had to choose between sustaining and shutting down. So they have choose fundraising to sustain their business and move forward in the economy. So the further financial metrics will be taken by Avsha. Yeah.
So, while we had a look at the big and bold strategies these banks have used so far, what it eventually boils down to are the numbers in the books. And they don't paint that much of a rosy picture, being that they have post tax losses across the board. But, however, when you look at the means of making these banks profitable, they have a good initial base setup, whereas you can see that their revenue streams are pretty diversified. Monzo, across all the three banks, interchange remains the primary source of revenue, whereas Monzo and Starling, since both have a banking license, they are able to achieve some interest income, while Revolut makes up that chunk from subscription through its premium products. Monzo and Starling also have different revenue streams, such as their paid products, the commission income, as well as Starling's banking as a service fees. Now, we found it pretty interesting to compare the financial metrics of these banks with an average of the UK Big Four banks. What trends emerged were that these banks lagged in the pure play financial metrics, like the net interest margin, where you can see a 100 basis point gap between the UK Big Four and the neobanks. While their revenue growth has been exponential due to them being in their prime growth stages, their efficiency ratios are lackluster. They have high non interest expenses compared to their revenues, and that is what sets them back a bit. Also, looking at the loans to deposit, whereas the UK Big Four banks have a 89% ratio, in that Monzo and Starling only have a mere 5 to 9% ratio. Whereas Revolut hasn't even started lending yet because it is just rolling out the lending products on its own banking license. On the asset quality, you can see that it is almost comparable with the UK Big Four, but there is a lot to still be developed in that. One thing to note is that these figures are comparing the 2019 annual reports of these banks, and in the remaining time which has passed since, Starling Bank has grown its deposit book 3x to 3 billion, and also its loan book has grown 18x to 1 billion due to the government backs schemes and loans which is lent out to small businesses. Next, we look at the unit economics. So these metrics essentially show if a bank is profitable at unit level, that is at a per customer level. So it makes sense that if a bank is profitable at unit level, it would eventually be profitable at a scaled up level as well. So on the left, we have the monetization metrics. Now, Starling Bank takes a lead in this, having the highest deposit and average loans per customer. And it shows the potential of the bank to eventually have a greater customer lifetime value over time. All the three banks are almost at par in terms of revenue, but the operating expenses are where things turn topsy turvy. So you can see that Revolut has optimized its expenses quite a bit, whereas Starling and Monzo still need to catch up in that department. Next, now that we've established where these banks stand right now, Priyamani will tell you where do they go from here.
Yeah, thanks, Afsha. So, as we have looked to like what are the performances of these banks, we should also have an outlook for the future. So, talking about the future, the UK regulator has been growing and bringing different approaches for these new and growing banks. So, in the recently the consultation paper, which was published in July 2020, the financial regulator of UK has mapped out their expectations for this new age banking and the path to the profitability. So, looking to the path to profitability approaches of this financial regulator and the new banks, the three new banks, there is a very big gap between them. So, moving ahead, we have figured out the 3S strategy for this each new bank, which tells us that this is forward to the viewpoint of profitability. So starting with Monzo, so Monzo is moving towards the subscription strategy, as it was mentioned by Tom that their main focus is on monetization. So they have also introduced Monzo Plus in 2019 with a monthly subscription, but it has to be scrapped in initial part in September 2019 due to some of its issue, but it has again revamped its offering deck and it has relaunched it in July 2020. Even recently in September 2020, we had a news that it has introduced the paid fee for withdrawals and debit card replacements. So from this we can actually have a look at how they are having a clearer path and building it up towards the profitability. The next we have the Starling Bank. So, as Afshab mentioned before, Starling Bank has introduced business banking within a year of its launch. So, it can be actually made obvious that Starling Bank is focusing totally on the SME strategy. So, even during the COVID period, as Afshab mentioned about the loan book, they were the biggest lender to the SME business users as through the government schemes of CBILS and BBLS, which allowed their loan book to grow 18 times more. And recently they had also start introduced many paid up business products, which is again a revenue stream and shows a clear path to the profitability. Moving to the next, we have Revolut. So Revolut is into a super app strategy. So I guess once Nicolay, the CEO of Revolut, has stated that they are creating a financial super app which will be highly personalized to a user needs and be driven by the individual actions. So we can say that they are into a focus where they're trying to bring all types of financial services in a app and make it a super app. If we also look to the timeline starting from the initial launch in 2015, where they started with multi-currency payments, and currently in 2020 they have cryptocurrencies, commodities, savings, etc. in their app. And also I guess recently we had some news that they are upcoming with some type of subscription, super social trading, social payments, which again makes us to believe that they are moving towards revenue streams and having a clearer path to profitability. So I would like to just conclude with only one thing, that maybe the future will have lot of ups and downs, but the focus and determination is always be the key to success. Yeah, over to you, Afsha.
So that's it from our side. We hope you found this little session insightful and full of information. You can reach us out on the following links mentioned on your screen and do say hi to us on Twitter. Thank you so much.
Thank you.